Welcome everyone. Hi, good evening. My name is Shizuka Paling and I'm going to be your host for today's How We Met. And I also have a co-host, Isaac. I don't know if you can give a wave. Hi, Isaac. I'm from Minneapolis and Isaac's from Texas. And yeah, we're going to be your hosts. And basically, just in case you don't know what this whole series is about, it's really about how people met. So the stories and how they got together. And I think that that's really valuable for everyone that's walking through this journey of trying to find your person in life. Different tips and tricks, hearing other people's stories, I feel like is really beneficial. And I think it's really fun hearing the different stories. And also for parents that are tuning in, it's really helpful also, I think, to see all the different ways that it's done now. I feel like when it comes to like matching or finding people, it's very different than how it was a little bit, even just like 5 years ago, it's just, even when I was blessed, it's just different. So this is supposed to be just like a fun way of getting to know other couples and their stories. So we're just gonna get right into it. So our first couple that we're gonna introduce is a really special couple. They just got blessed in February, so that's really nice. They just got blessed. They're actually going to be on two separate monitors because the couple is Emmie and Michal Emmie, and Michael's actually from Slovakia originally, and he's tuning in from Austria, so it's like 3 o'clock in the morning for him right now. And Emmie, she is in St. Louis, so she's in the Midwest. So anyways, I wanted to invite this awesome couple. They're super cute, and I'm excited to hear their story. So let's welcome up Emmie and Michal.
Hello, hi guys. So I am Michal. I'm half Hungarian and I'm half Polish, and I grew up in Eastern Slovakia, and I'm 22 years old. And Emmie.
Oh, hey everybody. So I'm Emmie. I'm half French, half Malaysian. Grew up in the US, still here. And yeah, I'm sorry we can't give our testimony together. We're still, I guess, in the process of merging our lives together. So yeah, not yet living together. But Michal can start, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we'll also just jump right into it, and I'll share basically first kind of my side of the story. So me with my parents, we decided to use the international matching website to go about the matching process. Basically, the main reason was, the main motivation is that we didn't know many people around the world, and we felt like kind of access to a lot of people is really like a really good way for God to work, because otherwise we're kind of like biased by the people that my parents know, which is a pretty small sample of people. And so the way we used the website was a bit specific. There's always this kind of conflict between, should like the participant, or should I have access to the people? Should I see the people? Should only the parents see the people? And the way we went about it is there's a kind of a trade-off between maybe the comfort of the parents, because my parents were maybe not so comfortable with like directly like contacting people without me like maybe approving of the people that they're contacting. So the way I also discussed this with some older brothers, and the way we went about this is that my parents kind of like picked like a small set of people that they felt were good for me. And this is the God-centered part where they were like autonomously doing this without like my bias, and then we together looked at these people and we considered like who might be the right person to contact. And we contacted Emmie and her family, and it worked out. So right after my parents contacted their family, I didn't speak to Emmie or anything like that. It was just the parents talking. And so there was already some friction, which was quite interesting. So for my dad, my dad, for example, did not like US so much, and on their side, I think I remember quite well that they didn't like that I was a bit younger. But it worked out in the end. So the motivation to like not have these issues as something that's central is that these things are quite surface level compared to the value of the blessing. So these kind of problems, we felt like, at least I felt like, were not real big issues, and they're kind of small compared to like how valuable a blessing can be. So that's why kind of the parents decided that, okay, let's carry on. And now I'll talk about our process and what are the kind of main problems that we focused on in each part of the process and how we maybe grew through the process. So right after our parents allowed us to talk to each other, we had this 7 days to decide whether there's any potential to carry on. And I really liked how we went about this. We didn't actually think too much about whether we like each other or not, because that's not expected when you just meet someone, right? Like someone new that you will just fall in love with them on the first day. So what we focused on actually was asking very tough questions, or questions which we felt like were deal breakers. So we kind of made a list of these questions, and these first 7 days we wanted to see if we are compatible in like the most important ways. And these were things related to faith or purity that we felt like were important for both of us. And once we got these questions, then we felt like after 7 days we can carry on to the 21-day process to decide whether we want to be in the matching process. So we are still not in the matching process at this point. And so in this next 21 days, our goal was to see whether we can go to a matching through like a formal matching process. And so in this process, I'd say in these 21 days, I'd say like we had this idea that we would maybe like to gauge whether we can maybe grow together, or whether there's some potential for growth. And we went about this in a quite interesting way. So what we did like a more challenging condition. I think we took 7 days, and it was at the end of this 21 days, and we did like a bunch of things like I don't know, cold showers, no sweets, reading and prayer, and it was quite intense. But I felt really good about completing this condition, because it was quite challenging, and we were able to like talk through it and see that we can complete this challenging condition together, and kind of like it pushed us further. Like it definitely deepened our relationship at a time. So there was like some like indication of growth. So we felt quite confident. At least I felt quite confident. I don't know about Emmy. She'll tell you later that we can move on. And so then that's when our 7-month kind of official process started. And just to share some of the main questions from my side in this part is basically there were 3 kind of issues or struggles I had throughout the process. The main ones are basically the first one is if like in this 7-month process, the first kind of issue that I was facing is whether I am presenting myself honestly as a person. I think that I talked to some older brothers about this, and especially for brothers, it can be easy to be in a bit of this kind of sales mode where we try to, of course, we want to put our best selves forward, but inevitably at some point we will have to like just be very honest and be ourselves. So I think especially in the beginning of this process and of these 7 months, when let's say I mean, this is just a very simple example, when we would go like to buy some food, and we would ask what I like. Well, I would just tell her I like what you like. So and that's not very useful. So I think that, but also when we discuss some text or something that we read, I think that it's much easier to like say an answer that is very, or like this, like say a comment that's very simple and not very like thought through, and not very honest and deep. So I think that was like something that that I definitely had on my mind, to basically really try to be as honest with myself as possible, even if maybe like I'm not 100%. I mean, even if maybe I'm not like not a fan of like my honest reaction, but I think that there's some value in like looking at that side of yourself as well. And so the next thing that we kind of face is how to fix problems remotely if there was some conflict. I think this was basically challenging, because we would have like these times of like 2-3 days when, let's say more in the beginning, where we didn't really know how to communicate well, when we wouldn't talk, and 2-3 days is really enough to develop some resentment or some problems. So, and this is a very practical problem, and I would say, but I'd say that like a lot of international kind of matching processes struggle from this, and I think it's quite tough to deal with. But I think we had this kind of policy to essentially, anytime we feel weird, we just talk to each other right away, and that takes away a lot of the struggle and a lot of the complexity from kind of feeling resentful, because you can just say it right away, and it really works very well. So So that was really nice. And yeah, so these were the two main kind of like challenges, I would say. After 7 months, we decided to move on and get blessed. So the blessing was approximately a year after we decided to get matched. And this year period was really good for us to develop trust. We did the trust was basically developed by making some like tougher decisions. For example, we were learning how to prioritize our relationship in our daily life. For example, like seeing each other over because it's quite tough to visit each other when we are so far away. So that was like one thing we had to prioritize, but also like this is a really good period to become really good friends, and there's less pressure on evaluating this person and the situation, and also there's a good time to like honor the constraints. Like we're still just matched, so we are not like a blessed couple, which means that we are still in a brother-sister relationship. And it was a really good time to develop a bit more trust and we just become really good friends. Yeah. So what do you think, Emmy?
Sorry, so my internet was a bit bad. I didn't hear everything that you said, but I just wanted to say, yeah, so like I guess my parents approached it a bit differently from Michael's family. We like I actually never saw any profiles or everything kind of went through my parents first before they included me. And I guess like some sisters have shared like rejections can be pretty painful, or even approaching a family is quite nerve-wracking. But I felt I don't know, it's some way like my parents kind of protected me from that, not intentionally, of course, but I would just say like going through my parents ended up being a very safe process. And yeah, I just wanted to share that as like a kind of different approach to what Michael's family did. But anyways, like my first impression on Michael's family, or like when I actually read his profile or just his essays, was like he's really different from me. And I think because of that, I felt, okay, maybe God is asking me to pay attention. And what I was looking for in a partner was not necessarily someone who had this like perfect life of faith, but somebody who was willing to grow themselves and like grow together as a couple. And I guess I can't fully know, but at least I just felt like, okay, maybe I think Michael is really that kind of person. And it gave me the kind of confidence that like whatever comes through, I think we would be able to work it out together, So yeah, one of the questions that was asked for us is like, how did God bring you together? But I think in our process, it wasn't so much that like God just happened to be behind our process. It was more that like we were like at every step trying to really intentionally like bring God in, and like and kind of like make sure he was there, And so for me, that just meant like including or involving my parents as much as possible, and then like praying often. And yeah, like during our initial phases of communication, I would like forward like all my emails and all like, or the emails that Michael sent me and all these screenshots. I would just like send them to my parents. I wasn't living with them at the time, but I really wanted them to just know everything that was happening and to get to know him as much as I was getting to know him. And so yeah, I just talked to them constantly, especially at the beginning, about like my thoughts, their thoughts. And it was really, really valuable just to have like someone there who can offer you a higher perspective. And yeah, it ended up being like a very, I guess I like cherish that time when I would just like talk a lot with my parents about this. And another thing was like during our first visit, it happened like 3 months into the process. And it was really important for me to have both of our parents there. So both Michael's parents and my parents. And Michael and I actually didn't really talk that much during our first visit. I think like partly because our parents were, I mean, not our parents, but like we were just there with our families, but also I think I was just like really shy. But still it ended up being a really great visit because like I could see that our parents and our families were really getting along, and he was getting along with my parents, and my parents just like really, really loved his family. And so like even if I didn't talk to him that much, which is like seems like such a waste because you travel so far, but it like really helped me build trust and realize, okay, he, the values that he has like are real. And I guess before that I felt a lot of like, I just don't really know who this person is. Like, we don't even have that many mutual friends, which is crazy because the church is not that small, and like the second gen community is also not that small globally even. But yeah, so the first visit was really good, I would say. And I guess like a turning point was that when our communication was going quite well, yeah, I still wasn't sure, but I started to like Michael as a friend a lot, and but I was also confused. I was like, am I just being selfish? Like what? And I had been praying during the process, but like a prayer that kind of stuck out to me was telling God, like, okay, as much as I am excited about this, and I think I do want to get matched to Michael, like, um, if there's any reason this isn't actually what you want for me or for us, then I'm not going to pursue it. And it wasn't until I had like offered that, and I really meant it, like, and I honored it until we were actually matched. But it wasn't until I had offered that I could feel like actually at peace, and it's like kind of peace that only God can really give you, and or that like you can give yourself by like inviting God. And so yeah, I think that was another big point in our process. Yeah, so Michael, do you want to talk about things that we did?
Yeah, so just maybe on the note of like inviting God, I think like one thing that we did very actively is we did a lot of conditions during the process. I think we did like 4 conditions, and they were like each like 40 days, and they were like to learn about the blessing, to learn more about true parents, and as in like together, we felt like we were like maybe like trying to start like something new. So we felt like these conditions were really useful as well. At least I felt them. That I think that they really help to like keep it God-centered and to have the right mindset and the right growth direction. So I think like those conditions during the process really helped, and I can talk about them later a bit more if people are interested. But some of the things that I think maybe would be interesting to share, some things that we both did to prepare for the matching. I think, Emmy, you had some really good points here.
Oh, so preparation. I would say like the most important preparation that I did was to like seriously like recommit to my purity, and like what do I want to say? I guess yeah, we often talk about purity in terms of something that's like physical, but for me, and maybe we need to talk about this more as sisters. Like I don't know, but for me it was like more about needing to learn how to set emotional boundaries, and like honestly like yeah, be more cautious about the friendships that I had with other brothers. And I just like felt really strongly like if I don't work on myself seriously in this area, then it's actually like preventing me from having the blessing that I really wanted. And so just like the way I thought about it, or the way like I approached that was more just about like trying to like pursue these like practical like lifestyle changes, like talking to my parents more often, and like sharing with them honestly about what was happening at school, or like like reevaluating some friendships, and surrounding myself with like people who are a better influence, and yeah, and also like consciously like deciding to limit like some friendships in my life. And also yeah, there was other things I would say, but like the point was to yeah, pursue purity as a lifestyle, not so much as like this list of things that someone else tells you is like to someone else tells you to like is right or wrong, and like really make it about my values, and kind of like yeah, and be honest with myself about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe to kind of conclude for a few more points is that we sort of had this prompt to think about what are some advices we would give ourselves if you're younger while we were preparing for the matching, and just a couple of things that we thought of. I think for me, I think the biggest one is developing a growth mindset. just in general, I think expecting at least for sure a process where you don't know the other person, and even if like different culture, very international, it's expecting to like this kind of process to be perfect and smooth from the beginning is naive and unreasonable. So I think that it really takes some resilience and some like growth mindset to kind of imagine a possible future which is like really smooth and works very well. And like in daily life, this can be practiced in a lot of ways, but I think like the most direct way is like just if there are some relationships maybe that you have and they're not going so well, or that need some fixing, that like it's a very good place to practice this kind of growth mindset in relationships idea, I'd say it translates perfectly to a matching. So I'd say you can definitely do that, and also it is really good to practice being yourselves, because you'll kind of have to, if I think we kind of have this in our community sometimes as BCs, that we have our BC personality, then we have our school personality, then we have our family personality, and we kind of like hop between these personalities. I would say like try to, if you're still in this position, like try to unify them as soon as possible, because like there will be your personality that you need to present eventually to your spouse, and it's really good to kind of be at peace with who you are before you try to present yourself. So I'd say these were the main points. I mean, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, just something my mom had told me is like, there's no crystal ball, Emmy. And I really liked that, because like, even no matter how long your matching process is, if it's like, a few days or a few years, you can't really fully know a person. And, and even like 40, 50 years down the line, like Michael is going to change, I'm going to change. And I think for me, it would have been good to remember that like my commitment to the ideals of the blessing, at the end of the day, it kind of has to transcend who that other person is. And if I had remembered that, I don't think I would have stressed so much about like figuring out who Michael was. Yeah, I think that's all I want to say.
Yeah. So I think that's it for us. Thank you very much.
Okay. Wow, guys. I'm listening to you both share your stories, and I am like blown away that I can't believe, Michael, I can't believe you're 22 years old. I know you said you're going to be turning 23, but you're so wise. And you also, Emmy, like you're 24, you're 22. And I was like writing down notes. I'm like, well, first of all, I mean, I really love how connected you are with your parents and how much trust you have in them. I think that's really special. And I think, what you were saying about how you went through your parents and you felt really safe. I think that's really nice, because not everyone is there yet with their parents maybe, and they don't always feel that experience, but they could get there. And I feel like the fact that you can feel safe with your parents, that was really, really beautiful. And then I love how, Michael, you were saying that like, age and all that stuff, because you're 22, Emmy's 24. I know it's not a big age difference, but like you were saying, that's such a small thing compared to like the value of the blessing and marriage and all that stuff. And then lastly, I loved how you were saying about, it's not about finding that perfect person, right? And perfect faith and perfect everything, but it's about finding someone that is willing to grow, someone you can grow together, right? And like your mom said, there's no like crystal ball. You don't know, right? People do change. And so, just find that person that you can grow with and move forward. So anyways, if anybody has any questions for Emmy and Michael, please comment in the chat and we'll get to them after our second story. So anyways, thank you so much, guys. Your story is super cute and valuable, and I loved it. Thank you. Okay, so up next, we have another awesome couple that I love also. They are from Florida. The couple is Victor and Julian Cerveto. And Victor's originally from New Jersey, but he lives now as a Florida guy. And they've been blessed for over 5 years. And we're excited to hear this cute couple's story. So let's welcome up Julian and Victor.
I will correct you. I'm in Florida, but I'm still a Jersey guy. That's
okay.
Yeah.
You start?
Yeah. All right, I'm starting. Thanks for having us, and Emmy and Michael, thanks for that really wonderful testimony. I'm hoping that some of the themes that are amongst these blessings, I think a lot of them are going to be consistent. At least there's some consistency between our two. I had all these bullet points on, the first blessing and the four-position foundation and this and that, but I'll just get straight to the story. I think it's more interesting stuff, and we can circle back if anyone's interested at all. But our matching and blessing, I have to rewind to a little bit of the inspiration of choosing this path from the get-go. I think it's such an integral part of determining whether you want this or not. And I know this is not my parents' story, but again, Emmie, the value of my parents and also Julian's parents in our matching blessing was everything. It made all the difference. And my dad was this New York City atheist before he met the church, and my mom was from Taiwan, who lived in a great amount of poverty and overcame struggle. And when I think about what True Father and our movement was able to do with these two completely different people from other parts of the world, and I look at myself and my own life and what they were able to create in our families, that kind of sets the foundation of the desire to pursue the matching blessing. It's absolutely absurd, right? And I remember their story is so funny, but she had these dreams right when they were preparing for their matching blessing that she was going to get matched to a Filipino. My dad he was born and raised in New York City, but he's traditionally Filipino. And after they got matched and blessed, she really struggled with that for some reason. And after they got matched and blessed at Madison Square Garden, she left him for about 7 years. And she went back to Taiwan, and my dad was just a very strong and powerful member. And he just wrote her for 7 years to try to kind of win her back, right? And I just look at what they've been able to build since then, and how genuine their love is compared to so many other relationships that we see in our lives. That marriage for a higher purpose is in my life like the optimal way to go about this process. And I also learned from that ideal couples, they don't always have to start with chemistry, and we all know that from a lot of our parents. So, and there's parallels between our matching and blessing as well. But my mom could not accept my dad, and it took years and years for that to happen. So, my matching process, I was raised very much prepared from a spiritual perspective. All the years at Camp Chautauqua and the close friendships that I've had with all my friends, and the opportunity to teach the divine principle and build up my spirituality. But the most important piece for me in our matching was my relationship with my parents. And when we started looking for matches, I think around my college age is when we started feeling a little bit more ready. That's when my relationship with my parents has skyrocketed, right? I always had, our challenges and everything growing up during adolescent years and high school years. But the moment that we were able to actually go through the matching process, well, I was never I was matched once and I blessed once, but I think a lot of second gen going back have gone through processes, right? And this is the time when love and life was a pretty big thing in a lot of our lives, and there were a lot of second gen around and a lot of first gen, and all the web of communities just allowed for all these different opportunities. And with each and every engagement that we had with my parents, we learned something more about what we're looking for, and we learned so much more about each other, and we just grew so much closer to each other, right? And some of the things, one of my earlier matchings was we learned the fact that sometimes you may be ready, but that other person may not be ready, and all the other cards may, be in place, and the families may love each other, but sometimes things don't work out that way. I learned through other experiences that you should never, this is my experience, right? You should never be attached too quickly. you don't know if you're running at the same pace as someone else. But at the end of all of this, I guess I learned that I wanted, the one thing, or the two things that it boiled down to for me, the two things that I really wanted in my spouse was someone who had a lot of faith. It's just something I wanted, because I know what the movement has meant for me. I know what my parents and their sacrifice in the church and True Fathers meant for me. And I wanted to have that common base from the get-go. I didn't want to, I would have preferred not to figure that out, you know, or struggle through that if that wasn't the case. And then also someone who had a big family and loved their family. I think the more that I was with my parents and I grew our relationship with my parents, I started to realize that those two are the most important things to me. So how do we meet? So Christelle Tape, I don't know if anyone knows her. This is wonderful.
Before you get there, maybe I can say my side and then we can jump off.
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay. So
Thank you.
So one of the questions was, what's one thing that you both did to prepare for the matching? Honestly, I didn't really think in my mind, oh, I'm going to prepare for the matching to be this wonderful person or try to be this wonderful person for my future spouse. But what I did do was establish my relationship with God and True Parents and my parents. I wanted to know who I was and where I stood in my own faith. So that journey for me started at 15, where I started questioning, I didn't want to just have blind faith in my church. So I started challenging myself and putting myself in vulnerable situations where I would, go to Christian youth groups every Wednesdays. And I wasn't the one that just listened. I was the one asking challenging questions, because I wanted to see what's so great about our movement. What is divine principle? I wanted to have this connection with God first. And I even went to one of my friends who happened to be Jehovah's Witness, and I went to her church, or talk to Mormons when I can, when they're at my door. Just little things like that, just being vulnerable. And I even started witnessing to students at my school, just talking to random people and just asking them what makes them happy, what's the purpose of their life that they saw. So just little things like this made me grow as a person, to feel a lot of gratitude to my family, to my community, and just really see how precious this is. My parents, who are polar opposites, Cuban and Korean with different temperaments, how the heck do these two people get together? This is only, interracial marriages are a beautiful thing. This is what God can build on, to take away the tension between the races, right? So that's such a inspiring thing for me, and I was so inspired and so grateful that I went out into I wanted to give back to my community and did a little service work here and there. And, and just with that experience, when you have a foundation of where you stood, at least for me, when I found my foundation of where God was in my life and what my family meant to me, everything else fell into place. And then just having a good relationship with your parents, knowing where you stand with God, knowing where you stand with our movement. I mean, I'm not a perfect person. I'm not, but I still have those belief systems that I still hold true to myself. So, yeah. And then,
yeah. So we lied. We did talk about the stuff leading up to our matching process. So now we'll talk about how we met.
So that was just the beginning.
Yeah. But I think that the message is that both of us were very, very sound in our relationship to God, the divine principle, and our parents, and that this process just got everyone stronger, or at least it made all those elements stronger in my own life. But I was coming off the tail end of a very difficult experience with a potential match during the summer of 2014. And I had four very close friends in my life that a lot of them actually, a lot of their experiences kind of aligned with mine as far as, things not working out despite all of our efforts. So we just needed some kind of a break. And Christelle Tape was a really good friend of ours, second gen. She organized, I think they did it 2 years in a row, this beach get together in North Carolina. It was Outer Banks or Cure Beach. And I think it was subsidized by the movement, but the year before us, it generated a big crowd and a lot of fuss, right? And then in 2014, my friends and I said, let's just, let's check this out. Let's go hang out with a bunch of second gen. Let's not think about the matching. And it was fantastic. There were these, they leased 3 large beach houses, like sisters' houses and brothers' houses, and we drove down there to North Carolina to just have the attitude that we were going to enjoy each other's company and not think about, matching or whatnot, which is kind of a crazy thing to think about in that setting, to not think about in that setting, I guess. And it's funny, I mention that because during no other part of our lives will we have ever crossed paths, right? I grew up in the Northeast and Juyeun grew up in the Southeast and
never seen his face.
Never seen her face. So, I mean, that's one really, really important thing. People like Christelle who create these grassroots meetups and it's not necessarily focused on matching there are like 3 or 4 couples that came out of that.
Yeah.
Like, and we're still in contact.
It's the most natural way.
Yeah.
It's the most natural
super
way.
Organic.
Yeah.
So we went there and we were having a lot of fun. And I remember the first time I saw Julian, and by now I had been my mind had been very battle hardened with my views on sisters. And, I for all intents and purposes, I had a very clean mind when it came to looking at other people.
Except for me. I'm just kidding.
And yeah, so for the first time, we were walking around the beach and I saw Julian and her Florida friends, and I did a triple take, right? So I looked and I saw her once, and I looked again and I looked again. And so that was the first time where I got kind of caught off guard, where I was actually really, I got really attracted to Julian. And that never feels comfortable if you try to live your life a certain way. And then that was the first experience during that weekend. And the second experience, I really hated the food lines. Growing up at Camp Chautauqua, I was either first in the line or last in the line. I would never wait on the line. So I was the last in the line at the North Carolina workshop, and I was just sitting on the couch waiting for everyone to get their food and everything. And Julian was the first in the line, and she just happened to sit next to me. And I don't know if this is a good thing or not, but they're cooking bulgogi, and she just asked, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I said, "I'm just waiting for I'm waiting for the line to go down." And she said, "Oh, you want to try bulgogi?" I said, "Yeah, okay, sure." And she fork fed me bulgogi, and no one thought anything of that. And it was
an innocent thing. You know how like Korean people, like you want to try, you just kind of like meet a person. That's what I did. And
I remember that.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah. And that was funny. And we both had very pure minds. So I don't know if that's a really good message though. You should never, should probably not do that, but that happened. And then during that weekend I was washing dishes, and then Julian came over and was washing dishes. Everyone does their part in these workshops, and the conversation was so awkward. Just nothing made sense. I couldn't strike anything. Like I couldn't make any sense of anything, and I thought Julian was a little weird.
Why are you there?
Talking about science projects and stuff like that. I'll leave it at that.
Cadavers.
But cadavers or whatever. And so we went away from that, and I didn't really I was trained not to think about Julian and other sisters in that experience. And then that summer, maybe a month later, myself and 3 of my best friends growing up in Camp Chautauqua, and I can't stress the importance of friends in your life. The second gen that love you and trust you. If you want a way to reach God, right? God speaks through people in your life that love you, right? So God will speak through your parents. God will speak through your friends. And there's just so many times, and I look back at, some of those late nights where I'd be able to share what I want and the experiences and people that I've talked to with my friends. And they would tell me, honestly, knowing me and loving me, that this person probably isn't good for you, or there's this aspect of your nature that's not compatible with this aspect, and these are the concerns. And those open conversations, along with my relationship with my parents, really, really, really helped just give me like the spiritual confidence to focus on what I'm looking for. So we had climbed that a month later, the tallest mountain, I believe, in the Western Hemisphere, Mount Katahdin in Maine, as kind of another spiritual journey or something we just wanted to do. And, most people I've talked to find God in nature. And I was on the top of the mountain, and I was not desperate, but I wanted direction from God, because it had been a couple of years since I was able to feel that I made progress with the matching. Even though I grew very strongly with my parents, I grew very strongly with my relationship with God, and we knew what we wanted. And I printed this out. This is something that is the most powerful, I think right now, the most powerful phrase for me in the divine principle. And it's this, it's in chapter 1. It's only a couple pages in. The place where Adam and Eve become perfectly one in heart and body as husband and wife is also the place where God, the subject, partner, given love, and human beings become united. I'm going to paraphrase so you don't get confused. So this is the center of goodness. So the couple, right? The couple is the center of goodness where the purpose of creation is fulfilled. Here, that's crazy. It's the center of goodness where the purpose of creation is fulfilled. And God, our parent, draws near and abides within his perfected children and rests peacefully for eternity. And the center of goodness is the object partner to God's eternal love, where God can be stimulated with joy for eternity. This is the place where the word of God is incarnated and brought to fulfillment. It just goes on and on and on, back to back, all these sentences. It's the center of the original mind, which guides us to pursue the purpose of creation, right? And God is a suffering God, right? And to think that just having a blessed couple will provide an opportunity for God to be at peace and be at rest and to experience joy, and that it's the center of the cosmos, and that he can be stimulated for eternity. All these things it's so incredibly inspirational. And I prayed to God that I could just be that, right? That I could just have that, right? That I could just have a couple where God can be at rest and be at peace. And that's, like, of all the crazy and complex concepts that people choose not to understand in divine principle, if you just boil it down to the importance and the value of having a blessed couple and making that four-position foundation, the divine principle, it says that's the center of truth and the center of the original mind, and it provides God with joy for eternity, and that's where he rests peaceful for eternity. I mean, after that experience, that opened up this sort of enlightenment to me that God was able to trust me, or I was able to gain trust with God through that experience when I was able to connect with his heart. And I think that when you're able to connect with God's heart in that way, everything just skyrockets. Like, all the experiences in your life make sense. And that's kind of when, I got the go ahead I just brought it up with my parents. I said, hey, I met Juyeun a month or two ago, and I didn't really think too much of it, but I have this strong feeling from God, with trust between each other, that this is something we should consider, right? And this is the first recommendation I made to my parents for a candidate. Most of the candidates my parents brought up to me. And it's the first candidate where I can honestly say it initially started based on a aesthetic perspective. Like, I was really attracted to her, right? And I think that trust with God is what allows something like that to happen. It's like, if you have that trust with God and God has that trust in you, he believes that you can make it work, even though it begins with an aesthetic relationship. And I mean, that's obviously not how my parents did. So there you go. In the beginning, I was talking about how my parents started completely unattracted to each other, but I was completely attracted to her.
So I received a letter, and I opened it, and I was like, oh, my mom was like, oh, you got her letter. And she's reading it, and she says, there's Victor and all his credentials, all his accomplishments. And my mom was like, where's his picture? No picture? How do I know how he looked like? and I was like, she's So she like totally like didn't care about his credentials. She only cared about how his face looked like what his fortune. She wanted to see the fortune of his face. And so I was like, yeah, actually, I don't know who this person is either. I couldn't remember because this was right after Christelle's
workshop.
Well, it's not a workshop, retreat.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, yeah, actually, I don't know who this Victor person is. And then how did that happen after that? What happened after that?
Oh,
After I got the letter.
Oh yeah, I gave a sermon.
No. Your dad sent the.
No.
Your dad sent an email.
Yeah. So I played violin at a Songhua ceremony for another church member, and that somehow made it onto.
You're skipping a lot of steps.
Well,
I think your dad. I think his dad contacted my parents.
Oh yeah.
And then my mom was like going back and forth with his dad, and then she was like, "I'm not gonna marry his son. Let your son talk to my daughter." So then Victor emails me, and then we're going back and forth. I said I don't like to email him. I don't like to email, and then we started texting, and I didn't like him.
Just didn't get anywhere.
I just didn't like him. I just didn't like you.
Yeah, she didn't like me. But I'm used to that because my mom didn't like my dad, and so you see how God prepares you for something like that. When I see my dad, busting his tail for, my mom for 7 years, it's like, this is just part of the process.
Right, and so I didn't like him, but I was like, okay, I'll just talk to him, and maybe we can meet at Sports Fest. So then so my mom still has no idea how Victor looks like.
Mistake number one.
And so then we go to Sports Fest, and
Sports Fest is just a disaster of events. So, dude, don't do it at sports. There's just too much distraction. There's too many. There's just I don't even know if Sports Fest is still a thing. It was such a disaster, right? So. Every time that I made an effort, in my day to go talk to Juyeun, hello, how are you doing? I'm good. Okay, bye. Like she just walk away every single time.
Because I thought he talked too much. I was like, every time I asked him a question, he would just like talk for like 15 minutes, and I'm just like, okay. And then I'll like I'm like, all right, bye.
So maybe that's another learning point, I guess.
Like when you talk to a girl that you like, listen to her a little bit more than what you're talking, or like talk at the same amount. Like have a good conversation of back and forth. That makes sense. Yeah.
And then a lot of really terrible things happened. I had a friend who got kind of seriously or a little injured during the Sports Fest, so our energy was down. And then Julian had an experience.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't good. So either way, at the end of the Sports Fest, Victor comes and approaches me, and he was like, so is there still going to be something going on? And I said, no, I'm sorry, it's not going to work.
I said something along the lines of, I feel like this is a terrible representation of, myself and yourself, and this, I would not want to end it this way. Can we talk again? I said something like that. And then June said what she said.
Oh yeah, and then I said, no, it's not going to work. But the thing is, was really attractive was that he was very confident, and he was pursuing me still, and like he kept on trying. I think trying is the key here for men out there. It's nice to try, nice to be chased, I guess, in a way.
A little bit.
And so like he was talking to Lonnie Owens, if anyone knows her, like he was emailing her, and then
so Lonnie Owens is Julian's brother's wife, so her sister-in-law, and I grew up with her in New Jersey. We played violin together for many years, so I kind of knew her. And when they went home, I just wasn't going to end it that way, so I just sent Lonnie an email, a long email telling her how I feel like I really messed up and we didn't do it any justice. And at the very end of the email, I just happened to, P.S., by the way, here's a sermon that I gave at the Clifton Church in New Jersey last week. Just, I don't know, whatever, just to give it to her. And then she wrote back to me and said, yeah, it's not going to work. But
that was me writing in Lonnie's email, by the way.
Yeah.
I wrote like, I don't think it's gonna work
Yeah.
with her email.
And then that sermon somehow got to your mom.
Yeah, so then finally my mom kept pushing. She was like, please let me just see how Victor Cerveto looks like. And then I was like, fine, here's a sermon of Victor. And then she was like, oh, you don't like him? If you don't marry him, I don't care about your life. So she was very like strong with me, and I was like, oh shoot, okay. So, and also my dad was like, how could you do this? And, you know, I felt a lot of pressure from my parents, but it was like a good pressure because it actually made me give him a chance, because I really didn't talk to him. I just blatantly said I didn't like him.
Yeah.
And but then it just kind of went from there.
So like, I mean, that's how we met, but I'm always, you know, indebted to my in-laws for telling Juyeun to talk to me. Oh
yeah, and another thing, so if anyone knows, my mom and I, we're not really into like rules, and do you want to add to that?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay, so it's funny because Victor's dad was like, maybe we should read the matching book, and my mom was like, well, my mom she didn't follow the matching book, but I think the reason why is because she really trusted us, and that we had like already we kind of knew where we stood in our relationship with God and in our church, things like that. So yeah.
I don't want to go over it. I think I should probably stop there, but I think probably the most important thing that helped the both of us was, again, our faith, the ability, all the effort that we did to build up our own personal faith in the church and the divine principle in the movement, and our absolute faith in our parents. And I know that's not everyone's path, but I mean, it was absolutely everything for us. And it allowed us to get away with a lot of silly things. Like, obviously, I'm going to just stop there.
Thank you guys. I've known you guys for several years now, and I've always been curious about your story and how you've met. I really think we should revive those beach meetups. Okay, I know right now with the virus and everything, we can't do that, but I've heard couples coming out of that retreat, but I didn't know you guys were one of them. So that was really cool. What I really appreciate about your couple also is your foundation. You appreciated your foundation where you came from, and recognize, the difficulties our parents had to go through, and seeing that as like, this is the foundation for what we're building here, and seeing the value in that. And like Julian, you said about Victor, it is nice when guys continue to keep trying. I mean, obviously if girls say no, you gotta have to gauge it, right? Like, guys, do it right, but and girls too, do it right. If they do say no, like, you got to see where they're at. But it was nice that you, Victor, you still tried in different angles, and in the end, you guys worked out. So it's really cool to see that story. So anyways, thank you guys for sharing. I know we're really running out of time, so I'm going to turn it over to Isaac. He's got a couple questions that some people have been asking, and he's going to just address maybe a few of the main ones, and then we can wrap it up. All right. Thank you guys again. Thank you for sharing. Your story was super awesome. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you to both couples. Really fun, wonderful testimonies. So this question is for both couples, and I thought it was a good question because we have a lot of parents on today. But both of your couples spoke about like this foundation of trust that you had with your parents. So I was wondering if you could share a little bit more on that and how that foundation was built, and yeah.
I mean, it would be good to start that, right?
Did you say me?
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's a really great question. So my parents, like, they definitely had their struggles in their marriage, and there were a lot of times when I don't know, I just wasn't sure. Like, I guess I kind of thought, okay, the blessing, maybe, is it like suffering? Because, I really kind of missed the memo that marriage is supposed to be a bit, joyful. And I think when, like, it came, I think for me as like, trusting them actually came out of gratitude, like realizing that what they went through was actually so that I wouldn't have to go through that. And I think, like, same for all second gen. And I don't think that I like really appreciated that until later. And I think once I realized that they were doing so many things for me, that I like, yeah, my trust for them was just out of like gratitude, I think. Yeah. And I think with like just trusting them or sharing with them, like that just came with practice. I mean, like I didn't live at home since I was 18. And then like there was a time, I think my first year of college, like I barely called them, but my roommate, maybe not my roommate, but like the girl who lived next door to me, she has like a beautiful relationship with her mom and like always talks to her. And I remember just thinking like, okay, I want that. And so I just started calling my mom like a lot and FaceTiming her whenever I wanted. And that just helped, like just kind of baby steps, I guess. Yeah, like I think my relationship with my parents like wasn't where I wanted it to be at a certain point, but I just decided like, okay, I want to work on it. And even if I'm like across the country, I'm still gonna do what I can. Yeah.
Thank you.
I would say for me, it's mostly that basically I grew up in a two-family community, and one of the families was my family. So it was quite a kind of like all the spiritual education I got from my parents. The Sunday services were basically family meetups. So we were very much like used to talking to each other about deeper things. And so this kind of trust was developed basically organically for a lot of years. So that, yeah.
Thank you, Michael.
Oh,
Your relationship with your parents.
you know, I never really had a good relationship until I started building my relationship with God first, and also seeing like how dedicated my mom is. She was such a good example. She would, you know, just like seeing her do like 120 vows every night and hours of praying, even though like her temper, sorry, no, ah, hold up. Oh my God, no. Okay, yeah, it kind of hits home. And yeah, gratitude to both parents, and just know, and just hold on. I'm sorry. Whoop, whoop.
No problem.
And and just knowing that they are doing their best to raise us.
Mhm. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that there's one practical thing. A lot of times when you're in close proximity with the people you love, and it's not your spouse, you have the potential to get irritated with each other, maybe. That wasn't quite my case, but I know the opposite was true. When I went off to college, being able to visit them less often made me more grateful for them. I really missed them. I was able to miss all the things that I took for granted. And you know, my dad is a divine principle teacher, and growing up, I'm just so grateful for all the weekly lessons that we always had together, and it helped me kind of create the framework for my own principles. I chose to live my life. So I was always very close to my dad from an intellectual perspective, and my mom is one of the most sacrificial people, the most sacrificial person that I know in my life. Is, you know, she never does anything for herself. She does everything for me and my sister. So I already knew that it was already done as far as my belief that they love me to death. And just coming back from a place, like coming back home from college during the breaks and the summers, just it was an amazing time for me to release and to talk about the matching and people that they think would be wonderful for me. And they listened to every single critique and concern that I had. And the more they did that, the more that I did that in return. And the more that we talked about things that we liked and things we didn't. There were times when my mom was, this is inside baseball here, but there are times when my mom was saying, really, I feel strongly against this particular person for this reason, this reason. But it was also a lot of intuition that she would throw in there too. And there's nothing like mother's intuition in many cases, right? So those are just some of the most interesting and powerful years when you're talking about someone that you're trying to marry, and you're drawing off of this inspiration that the two of them have, you've observed that for all these years, and it's crazy. It's just so nuts.
Yeah, I just want to add, like, for people to like try to build trust is like, know that your parents are trying their best to raise you. Like they are, I mean, a lot of us are interracial. A lot of us, you know, parents come from Japan, Korea, whatever, and we're Americanized. So like just understanding that there's a cultural difference and just learning to like accept our parents the way they are, and just just accept who they are and just realize that they're doing their best. And I think trust is able to be built on that. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you to both of y'all, both of the couples, for your sincere responses. It's really beautiful. Maybe we can have one more question. I know it's already past 9, so if anybody has to go, feel free, but we're just going to have one more question, and then we'll wrap it up. Well, I saw that there was a question, there were a couple questions about this beach meetup that y'all were talking about, Victor and Julian. So could you explain a little bit about that? Who organized it?
Mel Tate from North Carolina, but I think she lives in New York right now. Yeah.
But it was just a grassroots thing. She thought, I mean, it was 2014. I forget. It was 2013 and 2014. She did 2 years in a row. Yeah. But they just wanted to get a couple times, like again, 3 houses, like the sisters' houses and brothers' houses right on the beach, and just provide a space where people could hang out. And there was like one organized session, but
there were jet skis.
Oh yeah, she organized like
stuff. Like it was really, really cool.
You know, jet skis and beach time, and there were like discussion times. And there was only one church-related event, but people got. I mean, so many couples came out of that. You still talk to a lot of these people. And we always joke about how something like that can bring people together. It was a grassroots thing. It was a second gen. That wanted to get a bunch of other second gen together to hang out. That's the coolest thing ever. That's awesome. It was awesome.
I mean, how many people came out to that?
It was a lot. It was a lot of people. I think maybe around 60 or 70.
Oh man, I was gonna.
She rented 3 mansions, like 3 beach mansions.
Like beach timeshares that have like 10,
but they were
like,
huge.
like 12 rooms or whatever. And you have all these people like sleeping on the ground and
It's really, really.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Look into
awesome.
that.
Yeah. You gotta. I think the trick is you don't call it. You don't call it something that implies. You don't call it something that implies being in a workshop or actually meeting other people with the intent of getting matched. Because both of us just went to go hang out.
There's just a hangout session.
Yeah. But I mean, it's nice to have like one volunteer church thing maybe that people can go to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to talk to you more about it in private. That's cool.
Awesome. Thank you. Actually, we can have one more question for Emmie and Michael. You mentioned, I think Michael was mentioning it, that your first time talking, you asked a lot of tough questions. Do you mind sharing what some of those questions were?
Yeah, of course. Actually, we have a list. I don't have it open right now, but I think some of the main ones that we had in this list were related to like purity. So we kind of required of each other to kind of share if there are any issues there, because we wanted to like hold that as like a core like value that I think it was quite important for both of us that we were both pure. Then like more, I know that it has some things about like behavior, for example. I know that Emmy asked me about like what kind of role women should have in the family, and then something about like racism and stuff like that. So these are like questions that it's not necessarily related. I think maybe something about faith. That do you believe in true parents? Very basic questions, but very like fundamental questions, I would say. that we both found important. And some of them were just like questions that I would require anybody to like, not necessarily even in our church, but like any of my friends, I would require them to kind of fulfill those questions. But some of them were related to both to faith. I hope this answers the question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michael. Emmy, anything to add? Any specific questions you remember?
I think yeah, like I had asked him like, do you have like expectations about gender roles in a marriage? Yeah, that's what Michael mentioned. We asked each other about like addictions. Is our age gap a problem? Like Michael is 1 year younger than me, but we just brought it up as a question. He said something like, it's not a problem. I just don't want people to be like, oh, there's like, what did he say? He said something like, baby Mike, like people, I kind of forget what exactly he said. It was something about like, I don't want people to be like, oh, there's Emmy and then like baby Michael or something. I don't know, something like that. And then I think we asked like, yeah, I think what Michael covered it. They were just like really basic things, but they were along the lines of like deal breakers. And so I kind of felt like after we had covered them, that it was sort of like, okay, well, there's kind of like everything else after that is just getting to know each other and not so much about evaluating one another. Yeah.
Great, thank you. All right, thank you, Emmy, Michael, Victor, and Julian. It's been really great to have you and to hear your stories. Yeah, really wonderful to just get to know y'all better and hear how God was working in each of your lives and is continuing to work through your couple. So thank you so much. Mrs. Yopis put her Facebook in the chat if you want to add her, become her friend.
Yeah, follow my mom. Joey's. I'm sorry, that was really funny.
I'm sure she'd be very happy to meet everybody. Anything else you want to add, Shizka?
I just wanted to say, well, first of all, thank you everyone for being on. We had up to 100 people this month, which is awesome. Last month it was like 77, so it's awesome that the word's going around. People want to hear stories. We are going to try something unique next week with Sungye. People know Sungye, Hibner. It used to be Hibner, now it's Bean. We're going to try to do a singles game night. We're going to try. So anyways, more information is going to go up on the UC Singles Network page. And I think emails also, just like how you got notifications for this. Sorry, parents, it really is only for the people. So anyways, we're going to see how this all goes. But stay tuned. That's supposed to happen next Thursday. And we're going to try to make it a monthly thing also. So right now in this time of viruses and stuff, it's hard to do meetups in person. So we're trying to do at least virtual style meetups. So anyways, just wanted to kind of mention that. But other than that, thank you, Isaac. Thank you all for both couples for coming up on the call. Hearing your stories, I'm sure gave a lot of people good food for thought. And I think just in general, a lot of good tidbits of information of what they can use in their own journey. So thank you all and God bless. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.